This is one of the most beautiful bridges in the world. It looks like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie. But what makes it so special is that an architect, an engineer, designed it. And a sculptor, and they all had very different ideas about how this bridge should look. And at the end, the finished product looks so good that it tricks your eyes. You don't know whether to look left or right because the lines of the bridge seem to go on forever. But we'll get to that in a bit. The story of this bridge is actually quite an interesting one because it wasn't supposed to be built in the first place. This is the Millennium Bridge in London. And it was created by a group of engineers called Arup, along with architect Norman Foster and sculptor Anthony Caro. And Anthony Caro's job was to make something beautiful, but he didn't have much to work with. The bridge was primarily a transportation project meant to connect two very important parts of the city. So it needed to be durable, reliable, and safe. Usually, when bridges are being built, these are the things that take priority over aesthetics. But in this case, the mayor at the time thought that this would be a great opportunity to create a landmark for the city. So they reached out to Anthony Caro, who was famous for his own sculptures, which often took on abstract forms and used bold colors. And what's interesting here is that Anthony Caro wasn't just some guy who was hired to paint a mural on a bridge. He was a collaborator. The entire design of the bridge was based on his ideas. And what's fascinating is that while Anthony Caro was an artist, he had no formal training in engineering. So the engineers at Arup had to take his artistic vision and turn it into a reality. And the way that they did this is through something called diagrid structures. These are three-dimensional geometric shapes that can be made out of almost any material. They're efficient, strong, and they look amazing. In fact, diagrid structures have been used in modern architecture ever since the 1960s. And some of the most famous buildings in the world use them, like the Burj Khalifa or the Shanghai Tower. But the Millennium Bridge is special because it uses a diagrid structure as its primary form. Now, diagrid structures aren't anything new. They've actually been around for thousands of years. And you can see them in cathedrals like the Sagrada Familia. But what Caro wanted to do was take this idea and push it to the extreme. He envisioned a series of sweeping curves that would connect the two ends of the bridge without any sharp edges or corners. And to achieve this, the engineers at Arup had to invent new ways of fabricating these diagrid structures. They ended up creating 24 individual segments that were then bolted together on site. Each segment was made out of a steel frame and a concrete core, and they had to be lifted into place using giant cranes. But once they were assembled, the result was so incredible that it ended up being featured in several blockbuster movies like Harry Potter and The Sorcerer's Stone. But the coolest thing about this bridge is how it plays with your eyes. The reason it looks so mind-blowing is that it has something called forced perspective. This is a technique that artists have used for centuries to create the illusion of depth. Basically, the lines of the bridge get thinner and thinner as they recede into the distance, which makes it look like the bridge is going to literally disappear. But what makes this possible is the fact that the bridge has a slight curve to it. Now, most of the time, a curved bridge would look curved. But because the curve is so subtle, it ends up tricking your brain. So you feel like you're standing right in the middle of a never-ending ribbon. It's such a cool effect that it's hard to convey through a video. You really have to experience it yourself. Now, unfortunately, not everyone appreciates art. And when this bridge was first completed, it received a lot of criticism. People said that it looked too busy and chaotic and that it didn't fit in with the rest of London. But over time, people have come to appreciate the unique beauty of the Millennium Bridge. Today, it's one of the most popular tourist attractions in the city, and it's become a symbol of modern London. This is something that I've noticed about great art. At first, people don't understand it. They don't see the beauty in it. But over time, they come to appreciate it more and more until it becomes part of their everyday lives. And that's what happened with the Millennium Bridge. It started off as a functional transportation project. But over time, it became something more. It became a piece of art. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you want to hear more stories like this, stay tuned.